Hi, here we have my collector's edition version of the 6th Ed Warhammer 40,000 rulebook, and today I'm going to show you my entire collection of Warhammer 40,000 miniatures. This is in response to a request from the manager at Games Workshop Manchester. He wants to take a look at the actual collecting side of the hobby. So models you'll see today are both painted and unpainted. Some are off the shelf, some are converted, others are scratch built. Technically some of them aren't usable in games, they're built just for fun, but it's all part of the collecting hobby, so they're included. I'm going to start with Catachan Jungle Fighters. Imperial Guard, of course, my main army, and I've got some quite old figures in amongst this lot, some old Rogue Trader figures there. Some Rough Riders, converted from modern plastics and put on Dark Elf Cold ones. Carnosaur at the back. Sentinels, I've only got Sentinels from the Catachans. I'm thinking about adding some Hellhounds. That's a possibility for later on. Now on to the 78th Praetorian. Now these are made from the modern Cadians, but I've removed the heads and replaced them with World War II style British pattern steel helmets. I got from a different company. Again, some Sentinels and also some heavier walkers, scratch built. The motor pool and some light armour in the form of Hellhounds. Artillery. Tanks, some of which have been converted to have D-Day style modifications on them. Super heavies. And the bulk of my forces are the 24th Praetorian. All metal and out of production, sadly. Nice rifle line there. Case of front rank fire, second rank fire. Bayonetmen. Special weapons. Sergeants. Now we've got the command elements. The officers, converted officers, because there was only ever one officer done, so I've got several different weapons simply by chopping off arms and swapping them over. And we've got commissars, a priest, who is technically a character for a Sisters of Battle army, Primaris Psychers and a Psyker battle squad behind him, Abhuman support from a squad of rattling snipers, and several Ogrins, Stormtroopers, got a few spares of those, and the motor pool, and there's a vehicle I call a Lehman Russ Raider, troop transport on a Lehman Russ chassis. Sentinels, the full company, plus 2 spare squadrons, including some old ones. I need to swap the Cadian pilots of the 2 at the back for Praetorian bodies. I've got some spare. Special character I created called Preacher Joshua, his mobile pulpit. Light armoured cars, salamanders, Hellhounds and variants, a couple of converted light tanks. And onto the artillery. I've still only got 1 Hydra, even after saying when I did my Imperial Guard army video that I needed more. Heavier artillery, enclosed basilisks, all of these are converted. Artillery platforms, converted, death strikes from before you could get a death strike kit. And a artillery gun built on a Lehman Russ chassis with a much longer barrel. Onto the actual tanks themselves, Lehman Russes, Vanquishers, all laser armed versions, Demolishers, Exterminators, a version with a hull mounted Inferno cannon based on the old Crocodile tanks, a tunnelling version, Destroyers, Punisher, Eradicator, Conqueror, Executioner, Bane Blades. It's a mix of resin, one scratch built, and 4 of them are the more modern plastic version. We have Hellhammer, Stormlord, Shadow Swords, a couple of crudely scratch built Shadow Swords there. No need to scratch build them anymore since you can get a plastic kit. It doesn't make it worthwhile. And the resin one here has a detailed interior. Not that my painting's really up to picking out all those details. My latest Guard project, Rogue Trader Troopers, and that's the colour scheme I'm going for, sort of desert tan, and these are a mix of the pure metal and the metal with plastic arms versions. Some tarantulas and rapiers for field support, and now it's onto the squats. I can call them squats again because in the latest rulebook they are mentioned in the section on abhumans. Yeah, so they're back in the canon of the background material even if they're not back in the actual game. You can see I've added a few more since I did a video on them. At the back there's one complete termite tunnelling vehicle and 3 that I'm halfway through scratch building. The odds and ends left over. Squats, guards, some original stormtroopers there. Old tank crew, artillery crew, Iron Claw jump trooper, and now we're on to the navy. Some wheeled armoured fighting vehicles. These are completely scratch built. Instructions on how to build the chassis are on my website. And of course, since it's the navy, we need aircraft. So, Valkyries, Vendettas, a trio of Vultures, and a pair of Thunderbolts, which in the new rules seem to be the premier air-to-air fighter. And then we've got the Adeptus Mechanicus. Mix of converted, some very old ones, and some of the latest, another converted one, and some limited edition collector's ones. And of course, where we've got tech priests, we've got servitors. Tech servitors and gun servitors, Rogue Trader vintage robots, a scratch built Ordinatus with a tech priest standing on top giving commands, a knight done to Warhammer 40k scale to stop people saying I should use my Centurion heavy walkers that are part of my 78th Praetorian Regiment as knights. And now we're on to the Titans. Of course, Warhounds. And we step up to the Reavers, and then we step up to the Warlord. And next we get on to the Space Marines. Dark Angels are my chapter, So let's start off with Lionel Johnson, Primarch of the Dark Angels. Then we've got the Masters of the Chapter, including the current Chapter Master. Sorted Captains. You'll notice I've got a few of the latest Dark Vengeance Captain, one of which I've given a Thunderhammer, because otherwise they'd just all be the same. Converted model there from the previous starter set figures. Had to remove the bolt gun because of course Dark Angels officers can't have bolt guns, so he's got a plasma pistol instead. And we've got some chaplains, including a Dark Vengeance limited edition chaplain. Got 3 more of those still on the sprue. Librarians and Tech Marines. Again, going old and new here. The latest servo harnessed versions and the really old fashioned ones. Same goes for the Librarians. Got some mould on some the original version of Space Hulk there. The expansion called Gene Stealer came with 5 Terminator Librarians. And we've got the Deathwing as Belial, Master of the Deathwing, with his command squad. And here's his Deathwing. I've not got quite all of it yet. And there's a few odds and ends left over there, which include some of the original designs of Terminator armour, including the very first special weapon, which was a heavy flamer. And after the Deathwing, we've got the Raven Wing. 2 versions of the Master of the Raven Wing. Got 4 complete Raven Wing squads. And I've got some of the bikes from the latest Dark Vengeance. A few spare land speeders. And after the second company comes the third company. There we go, it's the third company. And the fourth company, both battle companies. Now I don't have the 5th company, but I can do the 6th, which is one of the support companies, and is just full of tactical squads, thanks to all the tactical squads you get in the various box starter sets. And then at the end I've got some odds and ends left over, which include some of the very early Marines. I might be able to use those as veterans, I need to check. And afterwards we've got the 10th Company, some scouts, including some old scout figures from Advanced Space Crusade there. Basic plastics. And for vehicles, a couple of drop pods, Command Rhino, motor pool, dedicated transports, Rhinos and Razorbacks. Dreadnoughts, of course. Again, going from the latest to the oldest. The old Rogue Trader Dreadnought, painted up like a venerable there. Scratch-built Gravitack and Ogre's Flyer. Not really a need for that. Well, I don't know, Dark Angels so far can't use the flyer that's been released. That might change. Vindicators, Whirlwinds, Land Raider Helios, Predators. There's the Olympia Storm Tank, scratch built, Age of the Emperor. Land Raiders. Including some of the variants. That one's a conversion of my own, mounting a demolisher cannon in the front. A Raven main battle tank on a Land Raider chassis. Proves the Land Raider technically is not a tank, it's an infantry fighting vehicle. And we'll close off the Dark Angels with 2 Thunderhawks. That's Forge World 1, that is scratch built. The Forge World kit came with a spare main gun, and what else am I going to do with a spare main gun other than build another Thunderhawk around it? And now we'll move on to the Inquisition. Here is some actual Inquisitors themselves again, some old, some new. Some of these go back to the days of Rogue Trader again. Henchmen, some of which might not be usable anymore now they've changed what henchmen can have. A motor pool, 3 rhinos, some more henchmen next to that one. Imperial assassins. Oh, missed out on the Cano stage there. Captors of Iron. And from there we go on to the Grey Knights, Terminators, and regular power armour. Also Dread Knights and Dreadnoughts. Air support, Land Raider. And after the Grey Knights we'll move on to the Sisters of Battle. A command element. This army is definitely a work in progress. Well, all of them are really a work in progress. On to the troops. You can see these are just undercoated. Some Seraphim. I would like to point out I did not paint these Seraphim, which is annoying because they're some of the best painted models I've got, and to make them fit in with the army I will have to dip them in paint remover. The same person who supplied me with those also supplied me with some converted Terminator Sisters of Battle. A converted Walker. I noticed when I got the Exorcist tank, I had an immolated turret left over and it looked like it would take the legs from a sentinel either side, and it did. Penitent engine, not even undercoated. A Rhino. Couple of immolators, execute. That's the Death Watch. Not really sure how to use those at the moment. The rules are hopelessly out of date. Hopefully Games Workshop will do something about that soon. Adeptus Arbites and a Rhino to go with them. And that brings us to the close of the Imperium stuff. And let's go on to the Orcs. And we'll start off with Ghazghkull Thacker himself, Prophet of the War, a host of war bosses, going back again to some vintage Rogue Trader models. Some of the heroes, Weird Boys, again Rogue Trader model, Mega Knobs, some old Pain Boys, the Knobs. These are all standard from the old Black Reach box set, and then some. As you see, I've extended the choppers to give them big choppers. And another mix. These are from the box set of multi-part knobs. And then here are some vintage ones. Going back to Rogue Trader, Thug Bullnecks, Orc Raiders. Don't know if anyone remembers that. Box set of metal orcs, Blood Axe Commandos, and Tank Busters, Looters, Burners, some the new style again, some vintage stuff, including some converted from Gorka Morka figures. And of course, you can't have an Orc army without some lads. Thing is, you just never seem to be able to get enough of them. No matter how hard you try, you always seem to run out of lads. Every single time. I, however, have not run out of lads here. I have, though, run out of downstairs. So we're going to follow the lads upstairs. And we now want to shooter lads. All of those other lads had sluggers and choppers. Getting on to some old ones again. These are the Thug Bullnecks Orc Raiders again. These are from Gorka Morka. Now onto some support weapons for the lads. Some big shooters. And rocket launchers. Now onto hard boys. There's a lot of the current generation of figures converted to be hard boys. And there's some Gorka Morka figures converted to be hard boys. It's the end of the boys. Now got some runt herds and grots. Lots of grots. Storm boys, bikers, deathcopters, on to the big guns now, the gun crews and watching mechs. That's the Hops Black Gun, the original Orc artillery piece. One flash kit. Cans. Killer cans, death dreads. Some old grot vehicles from Gorka Morka. Buggies, tracks. War trucks, Gorka Morka vintage. And onto the nicer new 40k trucks, including some gun trucks, again some converted from the old Gorka Morka figures. Aircraft that I am still in the process of painting. The old scratch built ones that I'm not terribly happy with hidden at the back. Basilisk, looted. The original battle wagon and the more modern battle wagons. A couple of squig-offs. Behold the Morkalith. Fortresses, battle fortresses. Trio of stompers. Made from a genuine bomb, that pulsar rocket is. And then we'll finish off the orcs with the figures I've converted to represent the characters from my fan fiction. Not all of which are actually orcs, but I've stuffed them in here because, well, let's face it, the stories are about an orc, so they ought to go here. There's actually one missing. It's currently in the display case in Games Workshop Manchester. That's the Clockwork Grot. And we've also got at the end a grot and a bomb. And now, here are the Necrons. Tyranids the Infinite, it's the only modern figure I've got. All the rest are the old metal ones at the moment. Well, I suppose the Catan's a bit more modern. I've not got anything against the new plastics, I've just not got around to getting them yet. Some vehicles. In a walker built from an old Zoid toy. Scratch built flyers. No real need for them now, they've got proper flyers. Monoliths. The Megalith, a great big version of a monolith. And now onto the Nids. Converted winged hive tyrant, no need to do one of those anymore because they brought out proper ones. Zoanthropes, both new style and the original style. Although these are still metal and not resin ones. Tyranid warriors, again the current version, and the really old ones. You got those in Advanced Space Crusade. Gene Stealers, including the Rogue Trader vintage Gene Stealer Patriarch, useful as a Broodlord. Onto the Gaunts. After the Gaunts, we've got Gargoyles, I suppose a type of Gaunt in a way. Living Carpet of Vipers. Raveners. Biovores. and the assorted spore mines, carnifexes, some trigons, one of them's a trigon prime, mycetic spores made from upturned bowls covered in tissue paper and string. And we'll finish off the Tyranids with a Biotitan. And we'll move on to the Tau. There we go, that's the Ethereal from the original Army box set. Battle suits, of course, stealth suits, fire warriors, Kroot, gun drones, some broadside support suits there. An alternative version of the broadside support suit, winged with seeker missiles and marker lights. We've got vehicles in the form of piranhas, devilfish, hammerheads, and a skyway at the end. And now we're on to Craftworld Eldar. See, I've had these a long time. At one point I thought that was a decent colour scheme, many years ago. For the various aspect warriors. Onto some guardians. Very old guardians again. Lots of old rogue trader vintage figures cropping up in this lot. Support platforms. Dire Avengers. I got these when they first came out, and you'll notice every single one is the same, because basically you've got 5 of the same in a pack, and there was only one of each aspect available. Rangers. Those are quite old, they're the original release. Swooping Hawks. Dark Reapers. D-cannon platform. Walkers. Vehicles. Vipers. Wave Serpents for transport. And Falcons. I really should get more Wave Serpents, I think. Fire Prism, it's the older version with the metal turret that just won't stand up straight. And we'll go on from there to the Dark Eldar. Some converted Archons at the back of the old style figures, and at the front we've got one of the new Archons, the Court of the Archon. We've also got Lilith Hesperak's figure, which unfortunately is posed downwards. I will just try and get it in shot. Incubi. Again, these Incubi are the older ones, hence they're in my older colour scheme, which is a very unimaginative black. When I first did these figures, there were mandrakes, because mandrakes, well, there were no mandrake figures to begin with, so I just made some Dark Eldar warriors up with splinter pistol and close combat weapons. These are badly in need of replacement. Witches, old and new, all female. Calabite warriors. Again, old and new. Bikes. I've got another 6 and 9 bikes from a big army set I bought a while back yet to assemble, but when they're not assembled, they don't count. Scourges. Now the older Scourges at the back, notice I've got 1 leader and 4 special weapons, so they're not really valid. But I don't think I'll bother adding to the force to adding to those units to make them valid, because these models are far nicer. Dedicated transports, Ravagers, air support to finish off Dark Eldar, and now we'll go on to Chaos. Some Chaos Marines, 2 Abaddons, because when my nephew gave up collecting, I bought his collection off him, and he had Abaddon as well. I need to find the Power Axe Chaos Lord at the back. A couple of Dark Vengeance Chaos Lords. Some Sorcerers. And a couple of Familiars. Possessed, you know, some old Possessed at the back. Before they did figures of them, I converted these using all sorts of parts. Some Gene Stealers, Demons, Gargoyles and Chaos Marines. Chosen. Terminators, including some very old Rogue Trader vintage ones. Thousand Suns, Death Guard, Khorne Berserkers, the regular Marines, regular Chaos Marines, some of the original pattern Raptors, the very tiny looking original pattern Obliterators, and then just some odds and ends of old Rogue Trader era Marines, which I really ought to do something about the paint job of. That was a plastic Space Marine Dreadnought converted to be a Chaos Dreadnought, and then there's a couple of Hellbrutes from the latest Dark Vengeance. If you've been counting, you might notice I've got 2 of the Chaos sets and 4 of the Marine sets. That's because I swapped one lot of Chaos for some Marines. Soul Grinders, Motor Pool, just Rhinos, Predators, Vindicators, a couple of Land Raiders, the floating toilet brush holder of Tzeentch, that's what it's made for, and of course the Chaos Titan with a banner chosen because it makes me want to be ill, and that's dedicated to Nurgle. I'm going to do a Khorne one next, and now we've got Chaos Renegades from the Dark Vengeance set, and some old Fantasy Beastmen given the last guns. They were one of those projects that sort of got started and never finished. Renegade armour in the form of a Chaos Dwarf Hell Cannon mounted on a Chimera chassis to count as a Basilisk, and 3 Leman Russies. And for the final army, yep, almost there, we've got Chaos Demons. Now these are modern Chaos Demons, Greater Demons, Lord of Change, Bloodthirster, and there's the original Bloodthirster next to it, and an original Lord of Change. So not Lord of Change, Great Unclean one even. Never get those two mixed up. I'm not going to redo the whole video for that mistake though. And there's some Demonic Heralds, some Bloodletters, the latest plastic ones, and some not quite so old metal ones. The oldest metal ones got chopped up for use on Possessed Marines. Demonettes, Horrors of Tzeentch, Nurglings, Plague Bearers. We've got some Fleshhounds of Khorne and Slaaneshi Cavalry. Plenty of Chaos Spawn. There's one there I sort of just cobbled together. That's lots of spare parts. Demon Princes. That's a very old Demon Prince made from an old undead vampire riding on some sort of winged nightmare. And behind it is a plastic Warhammer Giant with Balrog wings and a scratch-built scythe. And a Soul Grinder. And now, all that's left really is all the odds and ends of old stuff. Anybody remember Zotes? They used to be part of the Tyranid army, or in some cases Eldar army. In the last Tyranid Codex there was some information which seemed to hint at them, although it suggested they had been completely annihilated when they tried to settle in Imperial space. Gene Stealer hybrids, when you could do armies just of Gene Stealers, and some of these come from the Space Hulk expansion set Gene Stealer. We've got some look more like pure strains and some are more towards the human end of the spectrum. And going back before even that, we've got just all sorts of a mishmash of figures. Adventurers don't really fit in anywhere. Probably fits them in as renegades or inquisitorial henchmen or something like that. And they even did ambles. Got 2 of those. And finally, some things I've put together myself. The Umbra, taken from the book Xenology. Let's turn this bit around. There you go. There's some actually on the attacking an Ultramarine there, and finally, at the end, built from all sorts of spare parts. I have no idea what it is, but it's pretty damn ugly. And there we have it. That's my entire collection. And from the display, I've only got about 2 minutes of battery power left. I've been whittling on for more than half an hour, and I'm sure you're all thoroughly sick of it. So, thanks for